Karine Jean-Pierre, the dumbest person to ever be a press secretary, literally. Now, she's asked a question about Iran, about Joe Biden releasing all of the sanctions against Iran to allow them to drill oil into the hundreds of billions of dollars worth. And she's so stupid. This is the person that says she wakes up at 4:30 every morning to make sure she has all of the information for when she goes into the press conference. She doesn't have anything. Here's the proof. Look at this. Here's the absolute proof of her not knowing anything. Look, I'm not the press secretary, but I know more about what's going on when it comes to that than she does. How is that even possible? Please explain that one to me.
I want to ask you about current energy prices and Iran, if I could. So Iran makes 70% of its revenue from oil. It's doubled that oil output since 2019, adding $40 billion to revenues. So are the president's current energy policies giving Iran enough money to fund terror groups? Because
So right there. I mean, who didn't understand that? Joe Biden, because of his policies and releasing sanctions against Iran, allowed them to get billions and billions of dollars to be able to fund these terrorist groups. What should her response be? Watch this. This is amazing. Watch Shannon. Shannon hasn't seen this either, everybody. Watch this.
Well, the price of oil has gone up under this president. The former President Trump, the average price of Brent oil was $58. Under this president, it's $83 a barrel. So the price of oil is more. Is that giving Iran enough money to fund these terror groups in the Middle East?
I mean, I wholeheartedly disagree that our actions are giving. Is that what you're saying? Can you say that again?
The current energy policies in the U.S.
From our energy policies.
Yeah, seeing the price of oil go up because when you restrict supply here in the United States, it's forcing to get the global supply from somewhere else. OPEC is cutting prices of oil, so the price of oil goes up.
Yeah, and we're not part of OPEC, as you know.
Right.
But so they're going to.
That's not the question.
She doesn't get it.
That's not the question. Shannon, I know you haven't seen this video, and it's the first time I'm playing this for you even. If you're the press secretary, Shannon, just for grins right now, what would you say in that situation? What would you say? Because there's something else that she's getting ready to say here that completely exposes how stupid she really is. But what would you say based on the question that came from the reporter right now?
Well, gosh, I would hope that I would not be working as press secretary for somebody.
But I'm just saying, right?
Because there's no way to sidestep
Let's just role play right quick.
There's no good response. The fact of the matter is she doesn't even realize that Biden has lifted sanctions. She doesn't understand or comprehend the fact that when he shuts down our oil here, that means we have to go overseas to get oil, right?
From who? OPEC.
Exactly.
We gotta go to. He went over there on his knees with a hat in hand, begging for more oil.
Yep.
Begging for more oil. The response. I mean, she's such an idiot. Listen,
I thought she got up at 4:30 in the morning to.
That's what I keep saying. She the one said it. I get up 4:30 in the morning so she can have all the scoop on everything. I thought she just has her
book, and just like everybody else, maybe somebody's writing her notes for her too. The same people writing Joe Biden's notes are writing her notes.
Possibly so. Listen.
Make their decisions on whatever they decide. We are not a member of OPEC.
But the administration has decided to regulate the oil industry here in the U.S. and restrict investment, future investment in the oil supply in the U.S. And so as the price of oil goes up, is that giving Iran enough money to fund these terror groups?
It seems to be a big jump. And so certainly I'm not going to speak into that type of hypothetical. It sounds like a hypothetical that you're asking me. So certainly I'm not going to weigh into this. I'm just not going to weigh into a hypothetical here. Go ahead, Phil.
It's not a hypothetical.
Oh my God.
She's saying it's hypothetical. She doesn't have a clue what's happening. She doesn't have no idea that Iran has made billions of dollars as a result of what Joe Biden removing sanctions against them. She doesn't have a clue that is happening.
That's embarrassing.
It is it should be embarrassing for her. She went out there and she didn't have a clue that they were going to ask her about that question. So there was another one I want to share with you if I can find it here. Yeah, right here. Look at this. This is what Ted Cruz was on the floor. Listen to what he's saying about Iran, because they're literally trying to take us into World War III. And if Iran just might be that mechanism, the same one Joe Biden just gave him $6.6 billion for some Americans. So now we're negotiating with terrorists. They just negotiated with the Qatar with the terrorists. What do you think they got out of it? More money to build more rockets to kill people in Israel.
This massacre, this horrific assault on Israel, was funded by Iran. Hamas and Hezbollah are both Iranian proxies. They work for Iran. They work under the direction of Iran. And they are funded by Iran. Without Iran, there would be no Hamas. When it was first reported that these attacks had been planned, were signed off on by the Iranian government, the usual Iran echo chamber went to work defending the regime. They said there was no evidence. And the administration and an awful lot of congressional Democrats said they weren't sure either.
You know what? They do that every single time. I remember having a conversation with someone. It just made me think about it. It's not related, but it is related, but it's not. I had a conversation with someone about these school books that they were putting in the schools for children, child pornography. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Well, I was talking to one other person and they were going, what books? What books? What books? What's the author's name? What's the name of the book? Who wrote the book? What's the author's name? Who published it? When we all know that Democrats are all kicking and screaming about Republicans wanting to remove child pornography from schools, they're kicking and screaming about that, but don't acknowledge what the books actually are. You see what I'm saying? These people don't care.
But you know what no one denies? You know what makes these denials so strange? No one denies that Hamas is armed, funded, and directed by Iran. The game these people are playing is they say, well, we can't be sure. We don't have video evidence. We don't have an audio recording of the Ayatollah looking at a map and telling Hamas where to breach the border fence. So we can't be sure. We have to look into it more. What utter nonsense. Why are they so defensive? Well, because since President Biden took office, this White House has been responsible for nearly $100 billion.
$100 billion. Am I doing it right? $100 billion. Am I doing it right?
Flowing to Iran. And much of that money has gone directly to Hamas and directly to Hezbollah. You know, now, everyone acknowledges the $6 billion in ransom money that Joe Biden paid to get 5 Americans out of Iranian custody. I'm glad that now Democrats have joined what I and many others said was a tragic mistake that put a bounty on Americans. It set a price. $1.2 billion is what the Biden administration will pay you if you kidnap Americans.
$1.2 billion.
Okay, I didn't understand the finger thing.
Yeah,
I'm saying
my
going,
producer, I
heck?
guess, she's never watched it. $100 billion.
What's that from? What's that from?
Huh?
What is that from?
It's from, what's it from? Shag Me, Baby. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Shag Me, Baby. Austin Powers. Yes.
Our switchboard guy knows.
Yep. It was on the tip of my tongue. I couldn't remember. But Austin Powers. But that's the same thing was happening here. Dr. Evil just sent them $1 billion, right? Joe Biden, he didn't send them $1 billion, but they allowed them to make $100 billion. They can fund this war indefinitely now. They can keep going. They're not going to run out because Joe Biden still hadn't put sanctions on them.
Nope, he hasn't.
And then the money that they keep talking about freezing, the $6.6 billion, they don't care about that money. Freeze it. I don't care.
That's pennies compared to what they've made off of oil.
They're like, I can give a flying woohoo.
Woohoo.
Freeze it if you want to. Freeze it. We're going to make that. We've just made that having this conversation. Right? Well, listen to this one with Kirby. But Kirby this dude. What happens when they attack Americans? What happens when they shoot rockets at American ships? What happens when they shoot at American bases in Iraq and et cetera, et cetera? What happens? Oh, it wasn't meant for us. It was meant for the Israelis. Yeah, not for us. Watch this.
So is a U.S. war against Iran possible?
I think what we want to see more than anything, Wolf, is no widening of this conflict, no deepening of it. And we continue to send a strong message to actors in the region, including Iran, that if you're thinking about jumping in here, you're thinking about deepening and widening and escalating, don't do it. We will take our national security interests very, very seriously in the region, and we've added to the military capabilities to make sure that we can do that.
So, I mean, how many times do they need to get almost destroyed by a rocket that's coming out of Yemen, that's coming out of probably Iraq, going into Iran, going into Iraq, or just vice versa, whatever? How many times does a military base have to be attacked by suicide drones in order for you to take it serious? When does that happen?
You like the content Will Johnson is producing? To stay informed and up to date with the current events, go ahead and hit the thumbs up and subscribe to see more videos like this one. Also, to find Will Johnson, visit www.uaf.media.